Jets ready for takeoff? Or will there be a crash landing on Thursday Night Football? That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso. With the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the new Locked On NFL, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with the help of our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the data queen herself, Michelle Majuk. Today's edition of Locked On NFL, we're going to look at whether Jordan Love is actually going to play for the Packers this weekend. I say he will not. Also, some early MVP conversation. Can Derek Carr win this award? But we'll start, of course, with Thursday Night Football between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. Before we do, thank you for making the Locked On NFL podcast your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Make sure that you tune in later and step into the barber shop with Tony Wiggins as he chops it up on some of the biggest NFL topics here on Locked On NFL. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. It's Crossover Thursday here on Locked On Podcast Network, and Crossover Thursday, of course, is presented by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Michelle, we are back to football. It is Thursday again. We made it just a couple of days, but they're long days as we make our way back to some games. We got the New York Jets against the New England Patriots. And look, this is an interesting matchup, in my opinion, with both these teams sitting at 1-1, but both of them having very different expectations heading into the season.
Listen, I'm happy that you're trying to find a positive spin about this, because Thursday Night Football, Patriots versus Jets, I mean, just so gross to have so early in the season. But the Patriots have somehow been competitive in both of their games. They beat the Bengals in week 1. Week 2, they bring the Seahawks to overtime. I don't know how they're doing it, but good for them. And then the Jets, on the other hand, I think they're disappointing, right? I know they're 1-1, but to have that close of a game and struggle against the Titans, to get destroyed by the 49ers in week 1. I don't think Aaron Rodgers looks good at all. I don't think this Jets defense looks as dominant as they have in years past. And Rodgers is just checking it down to running backs nonstop, not willing to. He's not getting Garrett Wilson involved. He's not making this offense any more exciting. And anytime there's pressure on him, he flops. They have not been fun to watch so far this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get hit. I think that's a big part of it. He's 40 years old. He's coming off the major Achilles injury. He does not want to get hit. He does not want to take pressure. So he would rather get the ball out of his hands as quick as possible and sacrifice the play and sacrifice the drive rather than take a big hit. And I think at some point, you can't play like that if you want to win at the highest level. But I think there's another issue in New York. And my guy, John B. from Locked On Jets, talked about that. And it's Nathaniel Hackett at offensive coordinator.
I think the question speaks to a bigger issue that I complain about a lot with the Jets, is that why should Robert Saleh or Aaron Rodgers need to go in and put an X next to a play? That's your offensive coordinator's job. The offensive coordinator's job is to make sure your plays work at a really high level. It should look, I know that at the end of the day, the head coach is responsible. And I know Rodgers is a great quarterback who has a lot of authority at the line of scrimmage. But why shouldn't the offensive coordinator already have plays that work? And that's really one of my issues with Hackett. The other question is, when we talk about putting together the game plan, which couple dozen plays are going to work best this week? The other assistants do play a role in that. The other assistants kind of as I understand it, every assistant has their own area of expertise. This coach gets first down plays. The quarterback's coach may handle first down plays. The running back coach may handle second and short, things along those lines. At the end of the day, Hackett's the guy in charge. He's the supervisor on the offense.
I think Nathaniel Hackett is going to get outcoached by Jared Mayo. That's what I think is going to happen here. I think that the Jets may have a little bit more talent, but at the end of the day, I think that Mayo is a better coach. And I think one of the reasons that the Patriots have been in these games is because Mayo is doing a good job with that defense. And on offense, they're just handling business and ham and egging it like they should. And I think that a lot of what this game is going to be about is whether the Patriots can run the football. And our guys over at Locked On Patriots talked about exactly that as well.
I think the offensive line has to play better.
Mhm.
I think if your offensive line gives Brissett time to go through and his progressions and make a play or two down the field, that will take that issue with so many men in the box out of play. Because if you burn them on it a couple of times, they'll be more willing to lay back.
Mhm.
And it starts with protection up front. And just, you need to get your wide receivers involved. 3 catches for 19 yards is not going to get it done against anybody, especially the Jets, who have a very good defense.
Yeah.
So, I think, like I said before, it all works hand in hand. And, by all means, continue to run the football. We saw what happened week 1 against the Jets when the 49ers ran it right at them.
Look, and that's why I think I am calling the upset in this one. I am going with the Patriots over the Jets. I don't think you need to get the wide receivers involved and go against the Jets' really, really good cornerbacks. I think that the Jets are light up front. Their linebacker, C.J. Mosley, got hurt in the game against the Titans in week 2. I think that the Patriots have the ability to execute a bully game plan and run the ball down the Jets' throats closer to what we saw. And the reality is, look, I cover the Titans, and I don't want to make it sound like excuses, but the Titans, like they did in week 1, imploded against the Jets and handed away 10 points to the Jets that they didn't truly earn. So I don't think the Jets are as good as maybe people think coming off that win against the Titans and the 24 points they put up. I think the Patriots can bully the Jets in this one, and I think that would really take the wind out of the sails of the Jets' conversations about them being contenders.
This is what it's going to come down to. Can the Patriots get pressure on Aaron Rodgers? And they're dealing with a lot of injuries, and they have not been able to create pressure yet this year.
Right.
They have the 4th lowest quarterback pressure rate in the NFL, the Patriots do, on defense. So Aaron Rodgers cannot handle pressure, hasn't been able to since 2021. The only quarterback that's been worse than him under pressure since 2021, remember he won MVP in 2021, including
Right.
that year, it's been Zach Wilson. He's been the only quarterback that's been worse than Aaron Rodgers. But this year, Rodgers even had an 8.3 passer rating under pressure this season. That's the worst in the NFL because 8.3 is atrocious. You could spike it at the ground over and over and over and have a better passer rating than that. If they can get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, the Patriots have a chance to win. I just don't know if they're going to be able to. So I'm giving the Jets a very close win in this game. I think it's going to be a gross game on both sides.
Yeah, I agree with you in gross in terms of low scoring. I don't think this is going to be a barn burner in any way. I think one other critical thing that I do want to mention is Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez was banged up a little bit in his rookie year, but showed flashes of greatness. So far this year, he's been absolutely excellent. You put him on Garrett Wilson, and who else are you going to throw to? Alan Lazard is going to shake free on, a false start or an offsides by the defense. Alan Lazard's not going to be a consistent separator. I don't really like their 3rd wide receiver options at this time. They can dump it off to Breece Hall they want. I think the Patriots will be ready for that. So Christian Gonzalez versus Garrett Wilson is definitely going to be a matchup to watch in that one. But we're through 2 weeks, and it may be a touch early, but I don't care. I'm a madman. We're talking MVP. Can anyone knock off Josh Allen? I think they can. And it might be Derek Carr. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Luka or Ellie or Mahomes rookie card, it just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it is possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pools are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/lockedonnfl and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's arenaclub.com/lockedonnfl, code LOCKEDONNFL for 10% off your first purchase. All right, Michelle, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. As a reminder, make sure that you tune in later on this afternoon for the second edition of Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop. We talked about Thursday night football with the Jets and the Patriots. Now, let's talk some early NFL MVP. We're only through 2 weeks, but seeing some of the quarterback play and some of the names that are going to be involved in this discussion, I think that's quite interesting in and of itself. But the reality is we got to start at the top with Josh Allen. Look, the Buffalo Bills have maybe been the most impressive team through 2 weeks. They sit at 2-0. They've looked, they struggle with the Cardinals, but the Cardinals look to be a much better team than they were last year. So I think that'll be proven to be a good game, not a bad game for the Bills. And then their domination of the Dolphins was something to behold on the previous Thursday night football game. But it's not just Josh Allen that is propelling the Bills to success. The team looks good all the way around, and our guys over at Locked On Bills talked about exactly that.
Josh Allen's completion percentage is currently at a career high. His yards per attempt is at a career high, but his ADOT, his average distance of target, is at a career low. What you're seeing is all the things we've been complaining about for years with Josh Allen, how the offensive system needs to help him more. He needs to get more help from his receivers. He needs to get more help from the scheme. All of a sudden, he's getting it, but it didn't come in the way that we thought it would. The play action rate's still really low. So he's getting this help from the system. They're performing at a high level, but qualitatively, it's not the way we thought it was going to be. And so that, to me, is really impressive. I mean, just leave out the fact that they're running on early downs all the time, which is historically a no-no. And they're not even running into, light boxes. James Cook gets 30% of his carries against 8-man boxes, which is actually fairly high. Mm-hmm. And they're doing it on early downs, which is not historically a good thing. And yet somehow it's successful.
It has been very successful, and I think that's why Josh Allen may be the biggest name in the MVP discussion right now. But ultimately, even if the Buffalo Bills do fantastic this year and have the number 1 record in the AFC and all of that, I think that the conversation will be, oh, Josh Allen has more help than he's had before. The offensive line is better. Whether right or wrong, I think that will play a factor into the discussion.
Then that infuriates me because this dude has been getting screwed over from not winning MVP now for 4 straight seasons. He had at least 40 touchdowns in 4 straight seasons. That's the longest streak by any player in NFL history. And he's just thrown away in this MVP talk because he has some interceptions. That's it. But you're saying it was all the system before, right? The system was causing him to throw deeper. He was, more risky plays. Stephon Diggs was really crying for the ball. He'd get risky with that. And that, a lot of his interceptions were going Stephon Diggs' way, trying to get him the ball. Now with Joe Brady, the team is 8-1. He has 0 interceptions on the year so far. Only player with at least 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions this year. So you can't say all of a sudden now that the interceptions are gone, well, it's because the team's better around him. It can't go both ways, and that drives me crazy. Josh Allen is the most disrespected, overlooked quarterback in this league, and I know many call him the second best quarterback, but it's still the way that he's spoken about, it's still not high enough in my thoughts. I get so angry about this. As you can see, I'm flustered. Right. I'm flustered, Tyler.
Well, I think the turnovers give people an easy off ramp to be like, oh, he does this, but look how much he takes away with the turnovers. But I agree with you 100%. I think he's underrated. And as someone who covers the Titans, I had Titans fans telling me, Josh Allen's never done anything that Ryan Tannehill hasn't done. And it's just is this how fans really think? They don't recognize the greatness of Josh Allen. So I agree with you from that note, but we do got to mention some other names. And one of the big names that we have to mention here is Derek Carr, who admittedly, I have not been high on Derek Carr throughout most of his career, but I'll let Locked On Saints, the mastermind himself, Ross Jackson, tell you how great Derek Carr's been through 2 weeks.
It's all about what he has done and what he has done and put on the field. And so far, Derek Carr has been perhaps the best quarterback in the NFL. At least that's what several major passing statistics have to say about the guy. For instance, he leads the NFL in some of the basic categories that we're used to seeing: passing touchdowns with 5. He's tied for number 1 there. Touchdown percentage with 12.8%, comfortably number 1 there. Yards per attempt average, that is at 11.4 yards per attempt. So he is being the gunslinger, all of that. A very aggressive Derek Carr, which is not always what we're used to seeing when it comes to Carr throughout his career, typically having to play a little bit more kind of conservative and things like that. This offense has allowed him to open up big time. His passer rating and his QBR both atop the NFL as well.
Listen, I would agree with you that Josh Allen would deserve MVP right now over Derek Carr. I would agree with you on that. But we do have to take into account that human beings are voting on this award, and whether Josh Allen has won MVP before or not, I think there's Josh Allen fatigue because he's been so good for so long. It's like, oh yeah, well, we know Derek Carr is doing something that people did not expect. And the flashiness of that, I think if the media voted right now, they'd give it to Derek Carr. How close do you think he should be to Josh Allen in the conversation?
Listen, I like this Clint Kubiak offense. I think anytime
He's going to be a head coach.
Yeah,
soon.
49ers passing offense. They typically, when you leave, it ends up being a nice offense wherever you are. So I like the system for him. I think Derek Carr will have a very solid year, like overall numbers. It'll look like one of his better years of his career. And he was good at the end of last year as well. Like going back to week 15 last year, he has 130 passer rating. Like it's been a 7-game sample size, and he's been really, really good during that time. I will say, though, we were having the same discussion about Derek Carr back in 2020. It was like, oh my goodness, is he like MVP for him? Over the first games, he had 116 passer rating, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, 73 completion percentage. The rest of the season, after the first 5 weeks, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 64 completion percentage. His passer rating way down. So that's what Derek Carr does, though, right? Has huge spikes during a time and then comes crashing back down. So we'll see. We'll see with Derek Carr.
That's fair. And I think a lot of what the Saints are doing right now, too, they're heavy play action. They're having max protect, 2-man routes because Olave and Shaheed are so explosive. But through film study, I think that teams can kind of limit some of those schemed up plays that Clint Kubiak's hitting on right now with Derek Carr. And he's going to have to eventually win as just a classic drop back passer. You're always going to be forced to do that at some point in time. And that's when we'll see if Derek Carr is really taking a leap. But has he been in an offense this well coordinated before? It's fair to wonder if that's the case. So Derek Carr definitely deserves his love, but I agree with you. It's fair to say, hey, I got to see this for a little bit longer before I think that Derek Carr has turned some kind of corner or gone to some other level. But with that being said, I did want to give you just a few moments here. I know that Sam Darnold has played pretty well. Baker Mayfield has played pretty well. Would you want to put their names in this conversation at all, or is it much too early for that?
I absolutely love Baker, and he's killing it again this year. And the Buccaneers have won 7 of the last 8 regular season games, but Baker's never going to be thought of as this guy, right? And also, he is going to be inconsistent. You're going to ride the roller coaster with him. He's so fun to watch, but he's going to have some miserable games that's going to take him out of the conversation. And Sam Darnold, again, when I'm talking about Derek Carr, we've seen this before. We've seen the same exact thing with Sam Darnold before in his first couple games with the Panthers. He started off on fire.
Right. Weren't they 4-0?
Yeah, and then his first 3 games were absolutely amazing. The rest of the season, after those first 3 games, it was disastrous. He had 6 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 62 passer rating the rest of that season. In 2021 with the Panthers, got benched. So, let's wait a second. Even Josh Dobbs good for the Vikings to start. Like when he first got traded to the Vikings last year.
Right.
We got to calm down a little bit. The one amazing throw he did have against the 49ers, he said he knew the exact defense that they were in and exactly what they were doing. So he didn't even have to think about it and knew exactly where to throw and knew it was going to be there because he was on the 49ers last year. He's seen that in practice. So he's not going to be playing against a team he's played against before all the time. Baker and Darnold are out of it. We'll see if Derek Carr can keep this up, though.
Speaking of a quarterback playing against a team that he used to be on and that he knows pretty well, Malik Willis led the Packers to a victory in week 2, but Jordan Love could return in week 3. I'll tell you why I think that's nonsense. First, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook, and I mean, for good reason. It is America's number one sportsbook, but got something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, and that's just a couple of days, so you better get on it. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Talking about MVP, you can go take a look at the MVP odds on FanDuel and maybe place your bet on who you think ultimately comes back with the trophy. But to do that, make sure that you visit FanDuel.com and download America's number one sportsbook today. All right, football fans, we're going to cap off this Thursday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Talked about Thursday night football. Me and Michelle are split on who we think will win that one. Talked about MVP early in the NFL season. Really just a chance to highlight some excellent quarterback play in a season through 2 weeks that has not seen very good quarterback play. It has been awful out there. But speaking of quarterback play, Malik Willis in the single wing high school football Green Bay Packers run the ball 53 times against the Colts to a victory 16-10. Really hard to believe that would work. I talked to Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, and Malik Willis led Green Bay Packers 53 rushing attempts, is the most in the NFL since the Bears ran 54 times in 2017, and that was an overtime game. So just a really unique and tremendous game plan from Matt LaFleur in Green Bay that they may not need this week because Jordan Love returned to practice on Wednesday. Let's hear from Peter Bukowski about Jordan Love's status this week.
So what are we supposed to believe when it comes to Jordan Love's future? Because I spent all of last week under the impression that this was all posturing, and that's based on public reporting, that's based on things I was told. It's based on a lot of different data points. And then we get to the game, and Sean Clifford gets elevated on Saturday. Malik Willis allegedly gets told he's going to be the starter on Saturday. Post-game comments from people like Elton Jenkins and other people on the offense say, yeah, we didn't know who was going to be the starter. We thought Jordan had a chance to play, and we didn't know. Rob Demovsky says, this was not a charade. Jordan Love was close.
It's a charade. It is absolutely a charade. I don't care what the local media in Green Bay are feeding people. Of course, hey, tell everybody Jordan Love's pretty close to playing. Yeah, Jordan Love's close to playing. Okay, all right, we'll report that. This is 100% gamesmanship. There is 0% reason why the Green Bay Packers should put Jordan Love out there 2 weeks after watching his knee pop like we all saw it. Like, we don't have to play this game where, Jordan Love he's going to go out there and limp around at practice a little bit. And they're going to be like, look, see, he might play. He's practicing. See. No, Jordan Love is not playing this weekend. It would be foolish. Look at who Green Bay plays in the next few weeks. They play at the Titans this weekend. Okay, number one, you're on the road. Number two, the Titans do have a good defensive front. Right now, statistically, and some of the raw stats, the Titans are the number one defense in the NFL. Now, I think conversation-wise, that's not going to be true at the end of the year, personally. But the point is, the Titans do have a very good defensive front. They're a team that can get pressure on an immobile quarterback. And if I'm the Packers, there is no way I'm rolling Jordan Love out there in this environment when I play at home against the Minnesota Vikings the next week, or away after that against the Rams, who are a beaten-up team with a bunch of people on IR who just got blasted by the Cardinals. It just makes no sense whatsoever to play Jordan Love here. I think it's 100% gamesmanship. Michelle, am I crazy?
I think it'd be really not smart for the Packers to play him because they can beat the Titans without without him, right? I'm
Sadly,
sorry to your
yes.
Titans. It doesn't mean that they will win, but they have a chance. And now the Colts are a historically bad rushing defense this year. I mean, no
Yes.
team has been worse for 2 weeks than them since the Colts in 1978. That's the last
Yep.
team that has led more rushing.
You're not going to do that against the Titans.
No.
They can't do what they did to the Colts against the Titans.
But like I brought up last week, Matt LaFleur is an amazing play caller. He makes
He
things
is.
easy. Malik Willis didn't have to throw very much last week, but when he did, he scored a passing touchdown, no interceptions, 8.7 yards per attempt, 126 passer rating. He will have to throw a little bit more this week. He only had 14 pass attempts. Insane. He completed 12 of them. But like Matt LaFleur is going to make things easy for him. And you brought up the schedule. There's no reason to bring him back. The schedule does get hard for the Packers later on this year, where they get the Lions and the Bears twice in division game, the 49ers, the Dolphins, the Lions, the Saints, the Vikings again, the Seahawks, like really hard second half of the schedule. You got to get Jordan Love healthy. There's no reason to push him back this fast.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And listen, here's another reality. The Packers may not even need to beat the Titans to win the game. The Titans are really good at beating the Titans.
True.
So, I mean, if you're the Packers, you can just kind of ham and egg it throughout the game and wait for the Titans to unravel like they always do, and like Will Levis is going to do. So if you're the Packers, again, I agree with you. They can win this game without Jordan Love. The schedule gets harder, and this is an AFC game that, look, you want to win all your games, but in terms of the standings and tiebreakers, this is one of the least important games that the Packers will play all year, even if they do lose. So I think that Jordan Love is out there practicing. That's good. You want to get him a slow roll up, kind of a crescendo up to go back to the choir days. I just think it would be absolutely insane for Jordan Love to play this week. The Packers know that. He is not going to play in this game. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. Talked about Thursday Night Football, talked about some quarterback play, talked about this Jordan Love injury update. But that is going to do it for me. That is going to do it for Michelle. Football is back. Hope you guys enjoy the game. And as I always tell you, stay safe out there.
Bye, y'all.